Ladies and gentlemen, today we are gonna talk about the big update we had this morning in the game, bringing the 2 new classes in the game and some extra stuff. Changing a lot of things in the game, in fact, so we are gonna cover everything in that video. Let's first talk about the first subject. Some relics completely changed. In fact, they tried to balance the damage given by the different relics to your pals because probably now, without the nerf, they probably could deal a lot of damage. They adjusted some pal effects, and now you have way more details on every single pal, so you can see their combo multiplier, their crit rate, and everything around the pals that we couldn't see before. They adjusted some talents and added a new branch. So here on the talents, you can see that now we have the Tame Beasts, and we have 3 new branches. So here we have a new ultimate. Every 2 seconds, the pal damage increases by an extra 3% up to 30% on the yellow branch. On the red one, we have some extra launch rate, so you have more controls. That one looks pretty strong. The launch rate is really annoying in PvP. And finally, on the last one, you have some extra pal combo rate. We all know how much strong are the combo today, so maybe having some on the pals is gonna make the difference. I wanna try that. And on the different branches, you have some new stuff as well. You have some pal attack speed, you have pal damage, of course, you have some ignore evasion as always. All enemies regen and healing amounts minus 0.5% and a bit more if you upgrade that. This is something brand new. Pal ignore evasion. So now you have something different between your own evasion and your pal's evasion. Ignore evasion. They are not gonna evade your attacks, but they have some ignore evasion. If the target, the character in front has some evasion, they can miss their attacks. So this is probably why before, when using a Plume Monarch, we could see some evasion on the target at the beginning of the fight, even if our own class had 100% ignore evasion at the beginning of the fight during the 10 first seconds. It makes sense. So there we have some combo damage resistance. At the beginning here of the tree, this is pretty cool in my opinion. Skill damage resistance, pal damage resistance, counter damage resistance, basic attack res, evasion. And on the yellow branch, we have some evasion as well here, some healing. Okay, that's a basic attack. Pal ignore evasion, a bit more, some extra pal damage, ignore evasion, and that's pretty all for that. But then they changed a few talents that we had on the other branches. For example, on the Fury tab, they changed the pal damage into counter damage. I think it was that, yes, before that was pal damage. Evasion, they changed that to healing amount rate. So here it was some evasion before, now we have some healing. And before we had some basic attack damage, and now we have some crit resistance. And that one is gonna make a big difference. And then on the blue tree, they changed that one. Before we had some more evasion, now we have some crit damage increase. Pretty cool in my opinion. And we had some combo damage resistance, and they changed that to basic attack damage. On the archery tree, on the yellow talents, they changed the basic attack damage to combo damage. This is the one. So we have some more combo damage here and we have some extra combo damage there. And the coefficient has been increased here. So with our archers, we can have way more combo damage than before thanks to the talent. Here we had some basic attack damage resistance. Now we have some extra crit damage bonus, so which is way better in fact for your archer. Now we have some evasion here instead of skill damage resistance. And instead of the healing rate, now we have both the healing amount and the healing rate. On the blue tree, now we have some base attack speed. This is huge for an archer. And before, instead of that one, we had some healing rate. So instead of the healing rate, now we have some more attack speed. This is cool. Before we had some skill damage resistance here, now we have some extra ignore launch, which is pretty cool for PvP. And instead of the healing rate we had here, now we can restore some HP after a few combos. And finally, on the sorcery tab, now we have some ignore launch instead of stun duration. Instead of the counter damage resistance, we are reducing the healing received by the opponent. And now we have some skill crit damage instead of basic attack damage. On the blue tree, now we have some more crit resistance instead of some stun duration. Skill energy regen, so we can get our cooldowns faster if we are using that. And before, instead of that, we had some basic attack damage, so that one is way better than before. There we had some basic attack damage resistance, now we have some more skill damage. And now we have that one, I think it is new, skill regen. So we can heal every time we use a skill. Something more, here now we can reach 500% more combo damage, counter damage, and basic attack damage multiplier on all these nodes. So this is way better if you want to have more damage. And before we had some ignore counter and ignore combo, we could reach 30% on every node, and now we are stuck at 20%. Then they adjusted some classes. So if I go there on the evolution preview, we are going to start talking about the martial sage. The skill changed. Now they are going to reduce the counter damage resistance of targets within the range by 40%. And this is something cool because let's be honest, today, before that update, everybody was building their classes around counter damage resistance or combo damage resistance, and thanks to that they could nullify a lot of the damage taken. You are also gonna deal some damage based on the target's current HP, so this is pretty cool. Every counter strike is gonna do that. Then they adjusted some passives on that class. Here you have a 15% damage resistance instead of 10%. Before, with the passive number 4, you can have a shield for 10 seconds. Now instead you are gonna heal your guy by 8% of max HP every 5 seconds. And then on the last one, before you were getting some extra damage resistance every 10% HP lost, and that time you will get the shield instead every 5 seconds, absorbing 8% of max HP. On the Prophet, they reduced the stun duration. Before, it was giving to you some stun duration increased by 30% on enemies, and that time you are gonna increase the skill damage taken by enemies by 20%. And I don't know if we had that before, but that time it's gonna break the shields instantly with attacks during the first 10 seconds after casting the skill. They nerfed that passive, now it's giving only 20% more skill energy regen instead of 30% before. So you are gonna regen your skills less often than before. And they nerfed that skill as well. Before we had a 50% more duration on active skills, and now we have only 40%, so 10% less. And we have only 10% more damage on active skills instead of 30% before. But these nerfs are okay because now with the skill you are gonna deal more damage to enemies. They changed the Dark Lord as well. Now you have the same thing, reducing the skill damage resistance of targets within the range by 20%. And they changed the passive number 4. So that one, all character skills deal 20% extra damage and ignore immunity. That class is gonna deal a lot of damage directly at the beginning in PvP. You are gonna ignore the immunity with all your skills. This looks really promising, right? The skill of the Warbringer completely changed, and now it's gonna be pretty fun in my opinion. That time you are gonna reduce the counter damage resistance of targets within the range by 40%. You are gonna increase their attack speed by 30%, so they are gonna attack you way faster, and so you are gonna have way more counter during the battle. And this is your main source of damage, so in my opinion, this is gonna be really strong. And on the same side, you are gonna increase your defense by 50%, because if you are boosting the opponent, you want to have more defense, right? So this is the new Warbringer. And they changed that passive. Before it was reflecting 150% of the skill damage taken, and now it reflects 60% of the current basic attack damage when you are hit. On the Sacred Hunter, they changed only that passive, no change on the skill, so now you have a 20% more base crit damage, so it's gonna scale with all your crit damage at the end, which is maybe way better than before, because before we had only 70% crit damage. So it was added to the total, and it was way worse than that one in my opinion. And no change on the Plume Monarch. Still talking about the skills, they changed a few more things as well. Before, enemies were receiving 60% more type damage from class skills, and now they changed that to enemy type damage resistance minus 40%. I don't know how exactly works the damage resistance. They changed the skill of the smoke bomb. Now, instead of increasing the damage taken by the target by 30%, it's reducing the damage resistance of the enemies by 20%. And they changed that everywhere in the game. Now you are not increasing the damage dealt, but you are reducing the resistance of a type of damage on enemies. This is the difference we have now. They changed a bit the effect of that artifact. I don't know what you will think about that for the players, I mean, who bought the artifact, because generally when you spend a lot to get an artifact, you don't want it to change, but they changed the healing amount reduction from 90% to 50%, but before it was lasting 1 second only, and now 2 seconds. Let me know what you think about that in the comment below. And they changed that affix on the Avians. Before it was reducing by 90% the healing amounts received by the targets, and now it's 50% only instead of 90%. Talking about the Avians, they added 2 new Avians and some new affixes. So this is the first new Avian, the Yogurt Cocoa. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Each pal crit increases its final crit damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. And then we have the Yogurt Champ. Each pal crit increases its final crit damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. And each pal combo increases its final combo damage by 2%, stacking up to 5 times as well. So this is the legendary version of the other. So in my opinion, that one is the one to have if you are using a PAL class. So now let's talk about the new affixes. You have these 3 purples, random match, on standby and self-centered, lowering your PAL crit damage by 12.5% and increasing your skill crit damage here plus 15%, or your global counter by 7.5%, or here 7.5% more global combo. And then at the bottom, the 3 other purple ones are gonna increase your PAL crit damage by 37.5%, but they are gonna reduce your skill crit damage by 5% for that one, your global counter by 2.5% here, or your global combo by 2.5% here as well. So you have these 3, then you have Divine Touch, a new legendary one that you can proc on that Avian first. PAL crits have a 25% chance to deal extra damage equal to 0.5% of the target's current HP, so you are scaling some damage over the target's max HP. That one is pretty cool in my opinion. Then if I take that Avian, you have a Rise and Fall. PAL basic attacks have a 75% chance to boost its damage multiplier by 0.2%, or a 25% to lower the damage multiplier by 0.1%. So globally, with that affix, you are gonna have more damage, but I don't know if the difference is gonna be that high. And finally, you have the Archon Light affix, giving 25% chance on PAL crits to heal 0.1% of the character's max HP. And then they added a few things on the enchants. So if I open my artifact and go in the enchant section, if I go to change, I don't have any new runes for now, but you have a new set giving you some global PAL damage. This is a new set that you can farm in the dungeon, and here, I think it's gonna be here, you should have some PAL crit damage. So if we go on the Flame Temple now, if I try to enter, now you have the pre-selected packages, so you can just click here and select the sets you want to drop, because now we have 7 different sets, and if you want to go for the new one, Global PAL Damage, you can select it, you will have more chance to drop it, or if you want to get some more for your own class, Global Combo, for example, I'm gonna take that one, Global Crit Damage as well. And for the last one, Global Crit Resistance. I suppose that if I'm playing with a PAL class, I want to go with some crit resistance. So for example, I'm going to select these 4 ones. Do we have a new difficulty? I don't think so. Let's check that. The boss is already dead. And if I enter again, no, the difficulty 20 is still the last difficulty we can unlock. So let's sweep a few times and try to see what I get at the end. Okay, so if I come back on my enchants now, do I have some PAL crit damage somewhere? PAL crit damage, no, I dropped the known for now. So I don't know yet if the PAL crit damage enchant is the rune number 6. Let me know about that in the comment below if you already know about it. But now we have these ones, increasing the global PAL damage by 10% with 4 pieces. The seal number 6 is now selectable. So if I come here on my class, if I click on that seal, you have that button to switch your seal. You don't have it on the other seals, okay? So if I click here, now I can select whether I want to have some basic attack or skill or PAL. So if I take the skill seal, it's giving to me 100% skill damage. I got the same level as the one I had before, and if I take the PAL seal now, I have 100% more PAL damage. And they fixed that as well, the description. Now it's clear that it's giving to us some basic attack damage, combo damage, and counter damage. Then they changed a few things on the souls. If I open my souls, if I go to preview, I'm gonna hide that, take the immortal ones. If I take that one, now it's giving to us 10% pal crit rate only, before it was giving 20%. And if we click on bonus effects, now we have some pal crit damage instead of some extra pal crit rate before, from 12% to 40%. They also adjusted amount. So if I open my mounts, if I go on my blue ox, they changed a bit the blue ox. Here, pal crit damage 25% now, and before it was giving 10% pal damage. And if we go on the empowerment section, now they changed the description at the top. Before it was giving only some basic attack, but in fact it was giving some combo damage and also some counter damage. Finally, they added more drop rates on the gear and 2 extra substats. So if we check there, now we have 0.02% chance to drop some eternal gear when your lamp is level 29, and 0.06% from some Horus, 0.11% chance to get some Supreme. Here before for the Eternal it was 0.015%, so you have just a bit more. But now if we check the auto, I suppose that we can select the 2 new ones. We have some pal crit and pal combo. If you are planning to play the new classes, you need to go for pal crit and pal combo in main stats. So this is something that I'm gonna be working on the future. For now, I am still playing my class. I have a lot of things to build before trying the 2 new classes. And so the last thing of the video, they finally added the 2 new classes. You can see them directly here. The Beastmaster and the Supreme Spirit. So apparently they changed the names because if I remember correctly, it was the Beast Tamer and the Skeleton Mage. But now this is the Supreme Spirit and the Beastmaster. And if we check the details, because now we have the details on that class, AoE damage, increased pal damage received by targets within the range by 40%, lasting for 8 seconds, and pals ignore enemy evasion for 10 seconds. And if we check the passives, add 1 pal slot. On the second one, increase pal base attack speed by 0.1 and ignore evasion by 10%. On the third one, 25% more pal crit rate. On the fourth one, increase pal damage multiplier by 20%. And finally on the last one, pals deal 4% more damage for every 10% missing HP on your character. So this is probably a class designed for PvP because of all the ignore evasion you have and the pal damage you have. So now if I take the other one, the Supreme Spirit, AoE damage, increased pal damage received by targets within the range by 40%, same thing as before, but then pal basic attacks and combos gain 40% chance to deal extra damage equal to 1% of the target's max HP, which is pretty nice. You have the same first passive and the same second one. The third one is different. Effects on pal deployed increased by 20%. This is pretty cool. On the next one, you have some extra effects based on the first 2 pals races you have in your lineup. So you have the details here, and oh my gosh, you have a lot of things in here. Beast Hive Mind, is that the way we pronounce it? Gain 15% global attack when the first 2 pals in the lineup belongs to the cactus, and etc. So 15% more global attack, or 10% more attack speed, or 15% global health, or 30% global defense, or 5% global attack, 5% global health, and 10% global defense. That one seems to be balanced. And you can check your current effects. And the last one, gain extra effects based on the number of deployed pals belonging to certain races. With the first one, your pal skills are gonna deal some damage based on the target's max HP. With the second one, it's almost the same, but now it's your own skills that are gonna deal some damage based on the target max HP. With the third effect, you will have some more combo. On the fourth one, you will have some more crit rate. Then you will heal a bit more, have more damage resistance, and finally have more final basic attack damage and final pal damage with the last one. And one more time, you can check your current effects. So you have a lot of customization on that. And then they added a bit more stuff. For example, here on the main screen for the players who are playing on mobile, now you can see your battery life percentage here at the top. If you go in PvP in the arena, they added that switch outfit button, so you can switch your gear and sets directly from here. Same comment for the cross-server ranked match, you have the button over there. If you go in the shop, you have that new button here, so you can draw directly 1000 skills or 1000 pals. It's gonna save a lot of time to everyone. Then in the family, in the treasure hunt event, we will have some new rewards. We will have some love cakes, dungeon keys, and stones of true love. So more stuff for endgame players. In the blazing cave, they added the sweep button. You unlock that after reaching the level 100 on the lava behemoth, and then you can sweep directly your fight. Apparently on Grumpy Big Head, they are gonna make clearer the display of your HP. So I haven't checked yet, so I don't know how is it gonna be displayed, but we will see that. When you check the parking wars, you have two new cards to buy in the shop. You have the Dark Trials card for 250,000 parking coins, and that one is gonna give you an extra entrance in the Dark Trial dungeon one time a week. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to spend your parking coins on that because it costs a lot. But if you want to progress faster your talents, then maybe it's a way to do so. And then you have 5 of these cards weekly to lower the duration of your breedings by 25%. When you buy one card, you can lower the time by 25% for 2 Avians, for 2 breedings. So this is pretty cool in my opinion. 80,000 parking coins. So if I check that right now, if I go on my Avians, their breeding base, normally breeding my avians today is taking 9 hours in total, but thanks to these I bought 2 cards only, it reduced by 3 hours the time of breeding for the 2 at the top and the 2 at the bottom. Okay guys, so that was all about the news, about the update. You have a bit more tiny things, but we don't care that much about them, so no need to talk about everything in detail. Oh, and one more thing before ending the video, they will add some new kind of events, and the first one is starting at the end of the week, so I'm curious to see what events we will have. And by the way, the second season of that content is gonna start during the week. So guys, that was all for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if it's the case, don't forget to hit the like button, share the video, comment, and subscribe if you are not subscribed yet. Have a nice day guys, and see you on the next one. Bye bye.